Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Good day, dear friends, distinguished colleagues. And we have a very broad subject for today, and we don't know where to start with. And the modern economy is different. To extract oil and metals is important, to grow grain is important, to pick up grains and make wine if you're lucky, and you can make alcohol. But the value of the product, food, is different, so production became cheaper, and the ideas became more valuable. The underlying ideas that production is baselined on, and the added value is located in a different sphere. It happened within our lifespan, within 10 to 15 years, and everybody discussing intangible assets, intellectual property, because this is what plays an important role in the pricing policy, in the marketing, and even a deeper level, we have human capital, their knowledge, and what is related to intellectual property is the form to transfer this knowledge to market products. This is the system of our agreements, what and how is formed and valued in the world of realm of ideas. If we speak about innovative economy, the startups that are located circling around the lake, we need to keep in mind that the most important thing is humans creating products. The concentration of these humans, their knowledge, their competencies on what they're doing, what kind of environment they have to communicate with each other, it all determines the modern economy. And we have many speakers today. I will be introducing them as we go with the discussion, but no. And the most interesting thing that when we have not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 100 startups, when from such knowledge of people, when we get the layers of economic values, when it changes the economy of your country. That's why we decided to arrange our discussion a little bit differently, and we wanted to give a floor on digital business transformation to our colleague, to Datu Kristan, and he's going to tell us on the Malaysian miracle. How did they manage to put together all the brain and make intellectual property, make a new economy for their country in this way, and what is the way it happened and why, and will we manage to do the same if we run around the lake? Chris, take a floor. Thank you, Sergey.
I want to start by sharing with you my favorite quotation from another Chinese man, Deng Xiaoping, from China. You remember when I was a young man, his famous words were, "It does not matter if your cat is black or white, as long as it catches the mouse." I want you to remember this as I go through the rest of my presentation, because this is actually critical concept behind what I'm going to share with you. Okay? Let me now begin. I titled my presentation, "The Other Side of Digital Business Transformation." The clicker is not working. Can I get some help? Next slide, please. Okay. Now, why do I want to talk about the other side of transformation? It's because of this. Okay, in English, you know, we like to say many times people put the cart before the horse. In Russia, you say you're jumping the gun. The concept is the same. We jump into the idea, and then we try to figure out how to make it happen. All right? Which makes sense sometimes. It doesn't make sense in certain circumstances. What I will share with you is that you need to be able to do both. Okay? A vision is very important. But the path forward towards your vision is something that you will not know now. You can plan, you can hire the best speakers, you can hire the best consultants in the world to help you, but nobody will give you a perfect plan. The plan only reveals itself as you start to move. Okay? So my advice to you from this particular slide is do like what Gil tried to teach you guys just now. Jump. Move very fast. Attack the issue quickly. You might fall down, you might succeed, but it will give you lessons that are going to be very important to you. Now, why should you be listening? Next slide, please. Why should you be next slide, next slide. One more. Okay. Now, I'm from the government. I used to work for the government of Malaysia when we were trying to transform our economy. Okay? Later on, because of the results that we achieved, a lot of other countries decided to ask us to share our experience with them. And so we did. Next slide, please. So we went to Tanzania, we went to Oman, we went to 20 over countries. And today I'm sitting with you in Russia, where I came prepared with my suit. And then I discovered that this is hotter than Malaysia today. Right? It's something I did not expect. Okay? Now, next slide. As I listened to the conversations this morning, as I understood who you were, then I realized that some of my slides that I prepared are actually not entirely appropriate. Because what I'm teaching, what I was prepared to share are the experiences of us as a government, how we transformed our economy. I want to quickly move forward to the behavioral changes that we did as a government that enable us to move to our target faster. This will be more appropriate for you. But why should you listen to somebody like me from Malaysia? We're a tiny country. We are very far away. Russia is very big and powerful. You guys are much more clever than we are. But let me show you our results. As a country, in the last 10 years, we managed to reduce our rate of poverty in our country to just 0.4%. The numbers don't lie. Our country has 30 million people. We're a small country. When we did our transformation program in 2010, we declared a target to create 3.3 million new jobs. That's more than 10% of the country. By 2016, we had already created 2.2 million new jobs in a country of 30 million people. You should be asking yourself, this guy must be lying. This is impossible. I'll show you exactly what we did and why it's not impossible. Okay, next slide, please. We achieved this because as a country, we did one thing. And I have to, some of you, if you did economics in school, you might know what I'm talking about. But so let me just say, the one thing that we did as a country was to focus our entire government on just one thing. We call this the True North. Okay? And the one thing that we focused our government on was gross national income. Okay, here's the story. We had a prime minister 20 years ago, 30 years ago, who made a very bold promise to the people that Malaysia would become an advanced economy. We wanted to be like Japan, like the US. But for 30 years, nothing changed. Nothing changed because he did not declare what is the target. What is the KPI? What is the one thing that you are going to use to make decisions when it comes to allocating your resources? You in your company, you're going to have to make the same decisions one day. When you have a limited budget, you are going to be split between how much to spend on marketing, how much to spend on sales, how much to spend on production, how much to spend on research and development, how much to spend on operations, how much to spend on your office rental. Every single one of these has one person in charge. In a government, you have ministers in charge of different ministries. In your company, no matter how small it is, there will be different people in charge of these different functions. And every single one of them will tell you, the boss, that my department is the most important department for the future of this company. The sales guy will say, give me more budget. The marketing person will say, give me more budget. The research people will say, give me more money. Everybody is right and everybody is wrong. Okay? Because everything needs to happen together. Your challenge as the CEO is to decide which one is most important at that point in time. We are not talking about budgets, ladies and gentlemen. This is about cash flow. Right? Everything is important, but not everything is as important today. Right? We had to make this decision in Malaysia. And remember, I was in these meetings with our ministers, and you can see them fight. Education is fighting for money, defense is fighting for money, health is fighting for money. Everybody thinks that they are most important to the country. But we moved because we focused. I will explain why. And the results are very clear. Once we decided what our focus was, you see this number in the gross national income started to go up. Okay? Likewise, our rate of investment, next slide, in our country doubled. Okay, let's skip all this. This is really boring stuff. Now I know. Now I've met some of you. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so we built a lot of roads. We did a lot of infrastructure. Next slide. Next one. Okay, here's where I want to start. Okay, any major transformation, okay, needs to begin with this principle in your head. No organization transforms itself in one step. Every transformation is the result of many, many small changes in how you do things. Don't come to this forum and expect that you will go home with some miracle answer in your brain that tomorrow everything will change. It does not happen that way. What you're going to do is to take all this input and decide for yourself what needs to happen tomorrow, what can wait until next week, what is not necessary. All right? Because transformation is about changing how you do things. Okay, next slide, please. So the process that we take in Malaysia and in the other countries that we work in, okay, is 8 steps. And this applies to you even if you're a one-man company or one-person company, or if you're a very big company, the process applies equally. The first thing you need to do is to agree on your true north. Why does your company exist? And use that true north statement to prioritize your decisions. Okay? Don't allow yourself to be persuaded by things that are not important. So as the boss, I'm sorry, your job is to make unpopular decisions. But give yourself a chance by identifying what is your true north. The next thing to do then is to break down your strategy into individual actions. Okay? I was just in a discussion yesterday with some other colleagues. We were talking about in South Africa. I was in a discussion with some colleagues in South Africa where they were discussing the South African 5-year development plan. And I said, okay, why are you talking to me about 5-year development plan? it does not matter what we say today. What's going to happen 5 years from now? Keep it. Don't change it. It's fine. What you need to do is to break that 5-year plan into 1-year plans, into 1 month plan, into 1 week plans, into daily plans. Why? Because then you know what is actually working and what is not working. Okay? If you don't track your data, if you don't get your signals that something is wrong, you as the boss will not be able to take action. Okay? So take your strategy, break it down into as granular, as atomic as you can, so that you can track action. Okay? The next thing to do is to syndicate. We say, give it a public hearing. Get all your stakeholders to agree that this is the right thing for you to do. Okay? And then you can move on to the implementation. I will leave this for you. This is good for government discussions. It might be a little bit boring for you right now. Let's move to the next slide. Okay? Now, this is the reason behind my title. Transformation is not just about the technology, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Technology is easy. It can be purchased. You can get it from a partner. You can do whatever. But taking that technology and using it in a useful way to take you to your objective is a completely different story. Next slide, please. Okay? So we all know why technology is important. We all know why we need to change. Okay? Adopting digital technology is essential for giving yourself a competitive advantage, to increase your agility, to increase your customer relations, okay, to do business better. We all know this. There's no need to argue. Next slide, please. Okay? But as you try to implement the decisions that you've made with regard to your digital transformation, you will find that there are two opposing forces you have to play with. On the positive side, we call these the catalysts. Okay? There will be catalytic forces that will push you towards making that change. All right? Your colleagues want to do it. Your market demands that you do it. It's just for survival that you need to innovate and do new things. But at the same time, you must not forget that there will be opposing forces. Even in your company, no matter how small it is, there will be forces that you must contend with. Okay? Number one issue is that your team doesn't have a common vision. This is going to be suicide. If you try to make a change without getting everybody to agree on the vision at least, okay, you're not going to succeed. Okay? You don't have resources. You don't dedicate resources according to its importance. Okay? Different people have different sense of urgency. All right? I talked to you about that classic conflict between sales and marketing and logistics and manufacturing and administration. Any one of these people can stop you from accomplishing your vision if they are not aligned with you. Okay? The worst thing that can happen is that you as an executive adopt something because it's sexy, because everybody else is doing it, but you really don't understand what you're doing. Okay? That is the most dangerous thing. Next slide, please. Okay? Next one. So I want to share with you these 6 secrets. Okay? Now, if you take anything away from my talk today, do this. Okay? To be a transformational leader, to take your company to the next level, we recommend, you must practice these 6 things. The first one is to play the game of the impossible. Okay? set yourself an impossible target. Commit yourself to something that everybody agrees you cannot do, that everybody expects you to fail. Why? Why do we encourage you to commit something that everybody expects you to fail to do? It releases you from the fear of failure. Fear of failure is one of the most disgusting things. Okay, disgusting is a very strong word, but it's a bad thing. Many of us are held back by the fear of failure. But if this whole room already agrees that you're not going to succeed, what is there to fear? You guys get what I mean? So when we in Malaysia did our program, we proudly declared that we will double our gross national income per capita in 10 years. The whole world thought we were crazy. Okay? But because we declared this openly and everybody expects us to fail, there was nothing to hold us back from trying crazy things, doing dramatically changing the way we do things, okay, in order to get something done. The second secret is true north. Okay? Most of you already know this. If you have to make a decision about allocating resources, if you have to make a decision between one proposal and the other proposal, you must have a template. You must have a filter, okay, to help you decide which one to go. You cannot change your decision-making philosophy every day. It must be fixed so that that consistency, okay, is known across your entire organization, even to your customers, so they know what they can expect from you, okay? The third thing to do, discipline of action. This is the third secret, okay? We recommend you practice strong discipline of action because, let me give you one great example. We are in Russia. I have been living in Russia this past few months, okay? But even before I came here, I know that Russians are great chess players, right? Okay? How many of you play chess? Shachmat. Everybody plays shachmat. Now, the greatest chess players, before they make their first move, how many steps have they planned in their head? 10? 20? A dozen moves. But let me tell you something that I discovered personally. My plan, even if I was playing Kasparov, I can destroy Kasparov's 20-step plan by my first move. If I do not match his move the way that he was expecting me to match his move, his strategy is completely gone. There is no point in spending a lot of time trying to create a plan that has 20, 30 steps when you don't know how the other side is going to respond. You should have a vision, but you should not spend too much time trying to make a perfect plan. Your perfect plan will reveal itself as your opponent makes his move. Okay? So we recommend this to our friends because we see a lot of people, especially in government, they spend a lot of time and money creating papers, doing research, trying to make something good even better, trying to make something better the best. Okay? The best is something that will never be here today. The best is something that will emerge as you continuously do things. So why do I say this? Ladies and gentlemen, this discipline of action means you have to move quickly send your signal, make your move so you can gather information about the response to your move, and then you adjust your plan as you go along. This is the only way to move forward quickly. Okay? If you wait for a perfect answer, you will wait for a very long time, or you will never move. Okay? The fourth thing is situational leadership. Now, those of you who are running your company, please listen very carefully. Okay? Every journey, every transformation is broken down into 4 phases. I did not bring the slide with the details, but the research is very clear in this, that every journey can be divided into 4 phases. The first one is called orientation. Okay? When everyone is trying to decide which direction to go. The second phase is called dissatisfaction, where people start getting upset about the direction that you are trying to take. The third one is called resolution, when they start to accept, okay, that maybe the boss has a good idea. Maybe I should support it. The fourth one is when we go into full production, when everybody is in agreement and the team moves forward very fast. Now, that is not what I wanted to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about your style of leadership during each of these phases. During the first phase, when your company is lost for direction, the style of leadership that you must take as a leader is a highly directive one. Okay? Highly directive. Dictatorial almost. Okay? When a team is confused, the last thing you want to do is to call a meeting and ask everybody what they think. This is not what to do when people are confused. Okay? The boss must earn his or her salary. Make the decision. Okay? Make the decision and get it moving. Because the discipline of action that I spoke about before will enable you to test your theory and to get the information as quickly as possible whether you have made the correct decision or not. And you can use that data to correct yourself. But the most important thing that you must do as a boss during this stage is to move the machine. Start the reaction. Okay? Once the car is moving, it's much easier. The most difficult thing to do is to start the machine. Okay? Usually when I give this lecture and I have a lot more time, I talk about Moses. Okay? How many, we all know who Moses is from the Bible, the book of Exodus? Yeah? Moses is a very good example of a leader that practiced situational leadership, a directive style of leadership. Okay? What did he do? Moses led the people away from Egypt. Okay? Now, in all the books that you read when you go to church, when you remember when you were in Sunday school, did anybody tell you that Moses made his decision in a committee? Was there a council? A task force? Oh, they didn't have Starbucks that time, so, nobody met over coffee or anything. This man went and did his own negotiation. He went up somewhere and he came down and saying, I'm the boss, I know what to do, you must follow me. Thank you very much. But did Moses get the answer correct? No. The people left Egypt, and they wandered in the desert for 40 years. Okay? He did not know where to go. They got lost. But what did Moses do? He got them to move. Now imagine if Moses had sent out an email to everybody, okay, everyone, let's have a meeting. I want a representative from every department, come to my office, let's discuss when shall we leave Egypt. Which day is good? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What's good for you? Which direction should we go? North, south, east, west? If he was doing it, yeah. Yes, exactly. Thank you very much for underscoring my point. So you're actually supporting my point, sir. Listen. Okay? He said he had a direct line from God, so he didn't bother to take input from anybody. Let's just go. And everybody went. But what he did was he allowed the machine to move and then for a new generation to take over and finally complete the journey. That's the point I'm trying to make, yeah? So thank you for supporting me. That direct line to God, whether it's real or not, doesn't matter. Your people need to believe you, that you know what you're doing, okay? And if you engage, and if you allow people to see the data and respond to the data, they will adjust the plan together with you. Okay? So this is secret number 4, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to move your organization forward quickly. Number 5 is to learn to work as a team. I will not speak anymore about this, but you need to learn to work as a coalition. Okay? And number 6, my friend there will tell me this. You will agree with me when I say this. Believe in divine intervention. I work for the government. I'm a chemist by training. My specialty is molecular genetics. I'm the managing director of a consulting company. But I tell you, believe in divine intervention. Because there are 2 things that we as human beings must acknowledge. First one is that you have very limited control over the outcome of your actions. You may be the smartest person in this room, but still you cannot guarantee the outcome of any action that you take. Okay? Because man plans, God determines, or the universe, or whatever you believe in, you must understand that your fate is not in your control. Things will go wrong. So what you must do is to plan to succeed. Hope to succeed, but plan to fail. When you acknowledge this, what does this force you to do? Scenario planning. No company, no CEO should only have one plan in his or her head. You must have plan A, which you tell everybody, but secretly you should have a plan B or plan C or plan D, and the discipline of action of collecting data frequently will tell you when plan A is not working and when you must start triggering plan B. Okay? If the data tells you that your original plan is no longer working, but you insist that I'm the smartest person in this room, I must be right, the data is wrong, then I'm sorry, you will be disappointed. Okay? Because remember what I said at the beginning, it does not matter if your black is cat or if your cat is black or white. It doesn't matter if you use plan A or plan B, as long as you catch the mouse. What is most important here? The business objective. The vehicle that you use to reach your objective should not be important. Okay? Now, the second truth that you must acknowledge as a human being is that time is actually a reducing set of options. Time means a continuous reduction of options. Okay? In fact, if you remember from your training or from when you were in school, the definition of time is not measured in seconds or minutes, hours, days. Time is defined classically as a continuum in which events take place one after another. Okay? This is time. Time is a continuum in which events take place one after another. So what this also then means to you is that the more time you waste, events are taking place. Therefore, options that may be available to you if you take action today may no longer be available to you if you come back tomorrow. Okay? But how do you know when you need to make the decision? That discipline of action that I spoke to you about. You must have a system that constantly informs you when you must make those decisions. Okay? Now, why did I spend so much time? Next slide, please. Why do I spend so much time on this? Because I want to share with you this piece of work from McKinsey. Okay? Now, McKinsey did a study recently. They called it the 10 traps that CEOs must avoid in a digital transformation effort. First one, excessive caution. Fear of the unknown. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, commit to an impossible target. Okay? Don't fear the unknown. Declare to the whole world that I'm jumping to the unknown. If you die, you die. If you survive, you're a hero. Okay? Try again. If it fails, it's okay. Lack of focus is another trap that CEOs must avoid. Okay? We always want to do everything. We want to create the most sexy product, yet we want to do it cheaply. You want to do it on this platform, yet you have this preferred equipment supplier. You know, whatever. You make your example. But running out of money, okay, is another trap that you must avoid. How do you run out of money? Again, by making sure you have a good true north that enables you to make good decisions about how you spend your money. Okay? Lack of talent, this is about that working coalition. Okay? Lack of discipline, failure to learn. This, if you don't have the discipline of action and you're not constantly collecting data about how your progress is going, okay, you will not learn from those mistakes. Okay? Trying to do it alone, going too slowly. Okay? These are the 10 things that you must avoid. Okay? If you want to continue your digital transformation effort. Next slide, please. Okay? Question for you. There are 6 stages in any digital transformation. Where exactly is your niche? What do you try? What are you trying to do? Okay? Digitization and digitalization and digital transformation are 3 different things. Okay? They require and they create demand and they present business opportunities for different types of companies. Right? So, digitization of data is a very unsexy, very, the digital economy is when we start talking about automating processes. This is a services type of play. And then the digital transformation actually represents doing something completely new, okay, to completely disrupt how things are done today. So digital leadership, digital transformation, you see from these past few slides, is not just about the technology. Okay, technology is an important element, but the path to executing your digital transformation plan, okay, comprises 3 things. Leadership, and specifically digital leadership. So I explain in the next slide what I mean by this. Okay, digital leadership. a clear strategy, and a culture of inclusiveness and empowerment. Okay? These are the things that you need to adopt if you want to be successful. Next slide, please. So, next one. Let's move quickly. So, when I speak about digital leadership, I want to share with you another piece of information from this study. Okay? Who do you think is leading the digital transformation? In the early stages, okay, you see that the CEO's office and the IT guys usually have the same amount of say. But when the process is developing, okay, the CEO's office starts to become more important. When the process is maturing, okay, information technology becomes one of the smallest components of the entire ecosystem. Okay, the digital transformation is about changing how we run the business. This is a business thing. The technology part of it is minor. Okay, it does not matter whether your cat is black or white, as long as it can catch the mouse. Okay, so I put this here to try to encourage some of you to think about how you are approaching these things. Who are you assigning responsibility to, okay, for leading the changes that you are going through in your company? Next slide, please. Okay, so this is what we mean by a digital strategy. All right, starts with the leadership having a vision, and that vision is translated into a strategy. Okay. And eventually, you create a new business model from this strategy. But from this strategy, you then realize that you cannot afford to do everything at the same time because you don't have enough money or time or people. So you have to start focusing and start prioritizing what you can do today to maximize the use of your people. Once you have decided on your detailed priorities, then you have to figure out what is the detailed actions that these people need to take, okay, day by day until we reach the target, okay? But all this is just talk. It's like me. I'm sitting here in front of you talking, using a lot of words. I'm sharing a lot of theory. I'm doing studies. But this is not the same as actually doing the work. So having a plan is one thing. Then the real work begins when you start seeing problems from the implementation attempt. So problem solving is the next phase. And then you have to build your team by making sure you do good performance management. And then you have to keep your team engaged. You keep your stakeholders excited by communicating the results to everybody, okay? And then what do? You start all over again because transformation never ends. Transformation is a continuous process of evolution because remember what I told you, the transformation is about changing how you do things, okay? One piece at a time. How are we doing for time? We're finishing. Okay, next slide. Okay, so your transformation strategy, take a photo. We won't speak about this too much, but you should have 5 things in your strategy. Okay, and it's not technical. These are all people-related things. You must have a communication plan to tell everybody why we are doing what we're doing. Okay, you got to speak to your sponsors to make sure that everybody knows their plans. Okay, you need a coaching plan, you need a training plan, you need a resistance management plan to help your team, keep supporting you. Next slide, please. Okay, if you do all this, this is what the data suggests from the study that was done. If senior leadership plays their part properly, you are 6 times more likely to succeed. If you have an embedded change management strategy, you are 2 times more likely to succeed. Okay? Because with excellent change management, your employees work better. So let's just say this and keep it at that. So if you don't believe me, just try it out. I might be right, I might be wrong. Okay? You will not know until you make your next move. Okay? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will pause now for discussion and take questions. Okay?
Спасибо большое. Казалось бы, все, что рассказано, где это и заявленная тема про человеческий капитал и экономику знаний. Но я так понимаю, что чтобы знания и личные компетенции трансформировать в какие-то экономические ценности, есть какой-то универсальный рецепт, который работает и для стартапа, и для большой экономики национальной. И в разных видах, наверное, даже в советском кинематографе было видеть цель, верить в себя. То есть вот какие-то вроде бы простые стандартные вещи, но именно они работают. Мне единственное, что понравилось, что у вас должна быть амбициозная цель, такая, чтобы она вообще всех и вас лично пугала. Как это? Безумие, отвага. Но при этом должен быть конкретный пошаговый план. Но при этом этот план может меняться, и война план покажет. Так? Я правильно подытожил. Но у меня вопрос. Это мнение практика.
So, I'm a realist, I'm a practical man, and I want Leonid Grigoriev, he is a representative of science, of academia, to say how does it work, how to make a product out of brain and capture the market. Tell me. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Very interesting lecture. I was really keen on Malaysia. The entire Malaysian miracle took place when I started the entire world, and it was happening in front of my eyes. I will begin with divine Moses. Let me remind you, for those who read Bible, he was wandering around the desert, and this is the Moses mountain 4 kilometers from Jordan. He said, we will stay here, we will not move from here. And his friends, they revolted and started to argue. Then Moses disappeared somewhere, he was buried, and his Jesus-loving successor decided to go to Jordan. So communication with God was different, and the same works for Deng Xiaoping. It was quite opposite. The most famous quote from Deng Xiaoping on gigantic success of Chinese transformation, and I know Chinese professors don't tell us that we had a master plan. We never had a master plan. Listen to Deng Xiaoping. He said we were crossing the mountain by touching the stone, and that's why Malaysian miracle is divided into 2 parts. Today we saw interesting diagrams, 49%. So they reduced poverty line down to 6%, and there was the entire period when they had an outstanding prime minister who did it. Then they had a downturn Asian crisis in 1997, 1998, from 6 to 0.4. It took them 20 years when the first enterprises were built in Malaysia on microchip production. And the major problem is there that the humidity is very high, and the chips need to be produced in a dry environment at the temperature 19 degrees Celsius. And in Malaysia, it was very profitable. They were building plants and facilities. Malaysian miracle has multiple components to eat when we apply it here. I would also recommend to eat it. I fully agree with the previous speaker. Everything is right. And in Russian context, we also add the card term. We don't have to be a boot. And you need to estimate the situation correctly and then see the way out. You need to clearly see that you need to have an ambitious goal, and to rely on divine providence is difficult. You always need to adjust your plans. And going back to the human capital problem, the problem in our case is quality of our institutions we are employed with. Russia, surprisingly, we produce lots of natural resources. We produce lots of brain that we cannot use. That's why our people leave Russia, and in 20 years they receive a Nobel Prize in England, and within 30 years I send enormous number of my PhD students, and they are very successful abroad. But this is phlegmatics and melancholics success, because in a normal country, phlegmatics and melancholics, they sit at home, and cholerics, they go abroad. In Russia, it's opposite. Cholerics stay at home, but melancholics, they go abroad. And my strongest students, they are coming back, because in the West, in the beginning, it's very good. Then they face the ceiling, political ceiling, and career cannot be developed. And the highest career is reached by the ones who left in 90s up to 2021. And they face ceiling very fast. Financial part is good, but not really interesting. The most interesting people.
The most interesting people return. The Malaysian miracle, and I've shown you like 2 periods. You need to see, and you need to adjust the institutions every 5 to 7 years to adjust them, so that, for example, you gained money through exports, and at some moment you need to understand what kind of added value or added, additional revenues you can get. So they didn't manage to adjust the institutions first. They tried to increase the budget and to build up the housing industry, and then they found themselves in a debt crisis, and now they're trying to to resolve the situation. Why the Chinese experience is interesting is that they twice failed at Shanghai. But they're going to restructure their banks, so you can't create one and same start. So you can't find the strategy for 20 years. So you need to decide the problems for 5 to 7 years, and you need to understand that you are, if you take an example of a small firm or a bigger enterprise, when they have like family relations, and you work in this context for 5 to 7 years, and then you need to restructure if so these family members argue. So you always need to adjust the institutions, and the environment is also changing. And Russia is changing very fast, so you need to adjust to this environment. So you need to look at what our big companies are doing. They are very slow, but still they are doing something. So the small business is much faster, and the government does it from time to time. They tried to have a leap and try to use digital economy as a big economy. So in the whole world, others are dealing with this digital economy. And here the office of the ministry is created under the government, and then they start doing it. So we are trying to restructure the economy. I've opened an MA program at the Higher School of Economics, and I wanted to add something to the lecture from our Malaysian guest, which was wonderful. So you need to understand whether the internal environment is changing or external environment, or whether you are changing. So there is a good book which is called Karaoke Capitalism, and one of them says that you need to change faster than you will have to change. So I just wanted to say that there are three sources of changes for Russia. Either oil prices are changing, so at least it's a problem, or you have sanctions, or inside, well, you have the changes in the internal legal framework, or some enterprises are changing, so then you have to change as well. So your well, understanding of an ideal plan will change every couple of years, because our vision of the world is changing. And the happiness index, this is a special construct which doesn't show anything. And my students actually were trying to understand what they were, well, what it can be used for, but actually it doesn't reflect the happiness of people. This is just what people should be happy about. Whether they are happy or not, so it depends on the country. All the indices which are based on surveys show that due to different cultural codes, especially, a number of people just well, respond in this following way. So in Brazil, according to the service, Brazilians are much more happy than we are. So the happiest country in the world is Costa Rica. They have good climate, a lot of sun, etc. But we need to have some more objective data. So I called you to follow all the rules, but at the same time understand that we are also changing ourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really liked your statement that we should change, but we don't want to. Why we don't want to? So there are three sources of changes. So oil prices, sanctions, and if they do not change, then the government makes us change. Well, we are also changing. So, dear citizens, every year the students are changing, so they are now much better than they were used to be. The question, I'm not speaking about their education. They know more than we used to know. So, but in the first year, we help them to overcome the minuses and disadvantages of the Unified State exam. So, and this exam is not very efficient and can be used only for solving crosswords. But why the people from who want to study physics, why do they need the Unified State exam? That's absolutely ridiculous. It's a good social instrument, but why it is necessary for the strongest one? But you know, the tool is good, but it didn't measure the right thing. Now I want to give the floor to Maxim Proksh, who is the advisor to the president of the Skolkovo Foundation on the intellectual property. Skolkovo is the place where we are now. Here the human capital is very strong. This place is isolated from three sources of changes. So it's all based on brains, so the oil prices do not influence them, sanctions do not influence them, and finally the government cannot change anything in Skolkovo because Skolkovo is by federal law is not under federal laws. So how do you stimulate changes here, or they happen on their own, and how the brain can be transformed into money? So can you hear me? Well, in fact, we are not here in the zoo. We go and we communicate with our colleagues not only in Moscow, but around the country. And of course, Skolkovo as the institution or is an institute is not very isolated, and it also depends on sanctions, because you cannot introduce or you cannot import some equipment, and we also depend on the government, because we need to present a report on the spendings here, as all the organizations who use this budget funding, state funding. We were thinking, what is changing here and what is changing people? So apart from the fact that new technologies make us feel more pressure, we also need to understand that if we learn now what blockchain is, or what AI is, what big data is, we will lose something very important. And then this technological train will be way ahead of us. That's on the one hand, but on the other hand, today is the time of unimaginable opportunities. Look, earlier, young experts only could dream about going abroad. And it was a great dream of this young generation. But just believe me, they have great competition. Look at the Chinese who work. How many Chinese are studying all over the world? Try to make our Russian person so ambitious. In certain respect, we are creative people, and we are less structured, if I may say so, which allows us to implement or to put into practice something that cannot be practiced by anybody else.
Ну, в принципе, наверное, почти можно прерваться, да?
I guess we can make a break now. So when we started speaking about the isolation, so Dmitry Medvedev came to us, so the head of government.
Ну что, Максим, вроде вертолет стих.
So the helicopter is going away, it seems. So while we were speaking about isolation of Skolkovo, so Dmitry Anatolyevich came, who actually was behind the idea of Skolkovo. So So the third source of influence still works. And one way or another, even if we deny something, it still comes out of nowhere. Though it was not expected. So, dear colleagues, I'm afraid to lose my voice because I have to speak very loudly. Well, sometimes I can have like dreams, and maybe it seems to me, but I see here some new cool ideas, some new cool products, which are not in the international markets. But most probably, this good period would be quite short term. So I'm trying to encourage you to use this window of opportunity, because this is the right time, and you need to use this period, right? So, Maxim, I also have some questions to Ruslan Yusufov, who is a great expert in digital technologies. And so the development of new technologies actually is conducive to new money. So a company wants to come to the market. They created a product. They have some leadership qualities. So the company is ready to change. It's ready to adjust its plan. But still, any modern companies based on IT technologies, which are changing very fast all the time, and they change the plans. But can we build a long-term strategy of development, of monetization of your own intellectual capital and of the company in the context of this fast-growing IT? Maybe, well, as we don't have so much time as Moses did, and all of the technology in which you invested, so they started being very cheap. So the question requires quite a lot of meditation. You have only 10 minutes. So we will try to start with Divine. I really liked the quote presented by Homo Deus in the book called Homo Deus by Mr. Harari, that the future will be extremely successful for those who can make brains and bodies. And that will be the last revolution, because it would create a new human being, a new divine Homo being. And the gap between Homo sapiens and Homo Deus will be bigger than between Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalis. So those who see this trend and who will be able to make these brains and bodies, they will be the new elite, they will be the new multi-billionaires, and that will be a new opportunity to choose the side, whether you are a human Homo Deus or you are a Homo sapiens. If we look at how the previous industrial revolutions developed, there was a big gap between those who started building roads and those who saw some opportunities in them and those who lagged behind. But this gap was about 10 years, and now we are meeting here, and you can look at the agenda of the previous meetings and you can see how it changed. So it presents quite a lot of challenges. So if we speak about startups, and if it goes to the market in 2 years, whether it would be relevant in 2 years, whether Lyft or Uber is very relevant. So Lyft now is doing a project with some production of cars. So, and these people think about the trends, and it is called the driverless machine cars. And you should not go by Kodak way, who had these digital cameras in the 60s, and they were wondering whether somebody would need this, and they failed. The same thing happened to Nokia, because you can't see the future and say what will happen next. So now the world is so turbulent that, speaking about the students from the HSE, and it is one of the major universities, because they create new departments and new students. But when the BA students or MA students finish the university, how many times the world has changed since they started? Which new technologies appeared? What they were taught about? This is not the question to the Higher School of Economics, and this institute is one of the leading ones. But in general, the system of education, does it reflect the present realities. So there is no answer to this, and the answer is given by business. They create some targeted actions. So to create a system which would be sustainable in the new world, and some people say that it would be a VUCA world or some other type of world, but it's absolutely unpredictable. We can ask ourselves how smart dust would work, or some other technologies. So it requires us to think about, it poses a lot of legal issues, whether the AI would have some legal rights. So 5,000 years ago, Pharaoh was considered to be the conductor of God and all other divine providence. Now we are working in the by legal entities, so we just believe in them. So and tomorrow when the artificial intelligence would come, so will it be able to own Google? So there are quite a lot of ethical issues which are related to technology and to the education. I will just give you an example about the place of Russia here. There is political will. There is a practice of using roadmaps. And there is a big emphasis on the emerging technologies in most of the areas such as healthcare, education, support for startups. But we have just made very targeted research on blockchain in the universities and research institutions. We just wondered who plays the first violin now. We know that there were the graduates of Stanford, of Harvard, who organized the first companies.
And among the top 20 universities that derive blockchain, there are Chinese universities, and there are key universities. European ones is just 1 or 2. How many in Russia? Do you think? 0. We found 0 universities like that. And if we fail to answer these questions now, due to acceleration, every new cycle accelerates even further, and we might not be able to catch up, and we'll never catch up with the train. And small comment and more. We know the Turing principle. I don't want to explain it. And can we say that AI in finance will be acknowledged when he becomes able to create frauds? We will acknowledge it when we will not be able to tell the difference between the human. Once it passes the Turing test, in Turing test we might ask any questions, we can do floating, and this is a financial market. If someone is making a fraud in the financial market, will you tell a difference between human and AI? You know, yesterday I received a call and it said, "Hello, I'm Vera. I'm Robot. I'm from VTB Bank, and I have a wonderful proposal for you." I didn't know how to say, "Vera, God bless you," and disconnected from the call. The human capital. And this is each one of us, and how to monetize it. We have simple ways. We need to come up with an ambitious goal and proceed to it. We need to adjust each and every step of the way, because the world is rapidly changing. It is not simply rapidly changing, but it is expanding the space and creates new opportunities. The ones who fail to build steam engines, they build nuclear power plants. This is another way. But human capital, intellectual property will play a key role, not only in economics, but for each and every one of us as a way to reach own personal happiness. This is justified. But like the instruction from Malaysia was very useful for us. Thank you all.